This was in the early 70s, and there were these two absolutely mad scientists, if you can call them, Richard Bandler and John Grinder. So Richard Bandler was a mathematician. Both are alive, right? So he was a mathematician, he was a computer expert, and he had developed a lot of interest in psychotherapy. Okay, and John Grinder was a linguist. So a linguist is an expert on language and the structure of language. Now, both of them, they got together and they saw something interesting. They developed an interest in excellence. And this is what they saw, that most therapists during that time, when people used to go to them, they used to go to them for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. Okay? But there were these few therapists, a handful of therapists, when people used to go to them for a few sessions, they used to go and they used to have lasting change. And Richard Bandler, John Grinder asked the question, how is it that these people are producing results like that and long-lasting results while the rest of them are taking years? They said, let's study them. While the rest of the fraternity said, these people are gifted by God, we don't know what they're doing, Richard Bandler, John Grinder said, they must be doing something different. Let's study what they're doing different. Okay? So the three people they chose were Fritz Perls. Have any of you heard of Gestalt therapy? Gestalt therapy. Okay, so he was one of the founders of Gestalt therapy. Virginia Satir. Virginia was a family counselor, and you can find some of her videos on YouTube. And she had this brilliant ability to do couple counseling and couple therapy, family therapy. Brilliant at it. Husband, wife on the verge of a divorce, tried all kinds of things. They come to her. And she had this amazing ability to get them back together.
Sorry, what was it?
Virginia Satir, Satir. Okay, you can. And the third person was Milton Erickson. Milton Erickson, another genius. So by the way, all these three people were labeled as geniuses. Like they were outstanding with their work. Milton Erickson, he was a psychiatrist. And then he developed a form of hypnotherapy called Erickson in hypnosis. And he had a very interesting way of working with people. People used to come with an issue to him, he used to tell them stories, just stories. And in those stories, people used to heal. So what Richard Bandler, John Grinder did was they studied their patterns. Now, if they're studying for patterns, what patterns do you think they'd be looking for? What would they study? Okay, so they would look at behavior patterns.
Basically, whatever made the difference.
Like what? But what would they study?
The way they connected things, or associated.
Okay, so what would they pay attention? Like the behaviors itself?
No, but the
communication
connections
is
they
there.
made to a person as a story they were saying. Conversation.
How
Okay.
they speak, the tone in which they speak.
Okay, so like they study their tone, their body language, their behaviors. Tell me more about what you're saying there.
So, for example, if someone was going to come to one of them with an issue, how they would deal with the issue, or what aspect of that issue would they focus on?
Okay, you're going more focused on the style of work, right? Okay. Now, typically, they also study their approach, principles. So one of the things that they saw different with these people is that they believed that change can happen quickly, instantly, and can be long-lasting. The rest of the therapists, their model of the world was change is a slow, painful process. You get the difference? The paradigm of thinking is change. How many of you ever had that thing that change is slow and it's painful? Okay, so I used to think of change like that. Also, my thoughts used to be if change happens quickly, it's very superficial. Yeah. Now, but these people, these geniuses, they proved otherwise. And what Richard Bandler, John Grinder did, they studied the approach, the behavior, the tonality, the language, the words that they use, the structure of their language, how they fed back the communication. And what they did was they studied them very, very in detail, and they started noticing similar patterns, not the exact same behaviors, but similar patterns. Okay? And what they did was they created those patterns and made a blueprint. This first blueprint was called NLP. Okay, they had structures. Now, Richard Bandler, John Grinder do not have a background in psychology, psychotherapy at all. They studied these people, they took these patterns, and guess what? They started implementing these patterns, and they started working with their patients. They don't have a background, but they started working with patients, and they started producing results quickly. Richard Bandler was only 21 years old when this was, and John Grinder was around 30 or 32. There was a 10-year difference. So, what Richard and John would do is that they would conduct programs for senior psychologists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists, and they were learning from these youngsters. Okay, they were learning NLP. Now, that's how NLP started. An essential aspect of NLP is they looked at people's states. Okay, the states that they looked at their thinking process and they looked at their behaviors. Okay, these are the three. When I put thinking, I put beliefs also over there. And we'll come to this day after tomorrow, so we'll get more information about this, like what were they paying attention to. Now, a lot of people thought NLP is about therapy. It is not. What Richard Bandler, John Grinder did was they looked at the genius of these people and they modeled their genius. Okay? Then, so essentially NLP is about modeling excellence, right? So, what they did was they took the similar kind of framework and they said, okay, let's look at the best business people. And what did they find with the best business people? Similar patterns. Okay? They looked at the best teachers, and guess what they found? Similar patterns. They looked at the best psychologists, found similar patterns. Best lawyers, similar patterns. Now, you can have two different personalities, but you can have similar patterns of thinking and operating, right? So, the best sports people, you have similar patterns. So, what they did was they started noticing the NLP blueprint fitted a lot of these fields. So from the field of therapy, it went to business, it went to sport, it went to teaching, it went to law, to almost all fields where communication is there. And in a lot of organizations, the word NLP is not used, but a lot of the sources come from the study of NLP, right? So it's really, really expanded. Now, one of the things what Richard Bandler, John Grinder found is, and I was testimony to this when I went to Portugal to study with John Grinder, is how they use their senses. Okay? Now, think about this. How do we take in information? How do we do that? Through our senses. So, and what are our senses? Sight, smell, taste, hearing, and touch. Okay? So we say visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. That's how we take in information. Now, when a baby is born, how does the baby experience his or her mother?
By feeling.
Okay.
Touching cells.
Okay. So mother's holding the baby. How does the baby experience the mother?
The what?
Okay, smell, the temperature, right? Now, have any of you seen somebody else holds the baby and the baby starts crying? Comes back to the mother and the baby stops crying, right? So now at that, obviously the eyes are not open, but they're calibrating the mother's touch, temperature, they're smelling the mother. Goes away, it's a different smell, it's a different temperature, and then comes back. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to start opening our senses. See, when a child, imagine a 1-year-old child, okay, standing at the balcony, looking at a black thing that's flying like this. Now, how does that child experience that thing flying? What does a child pay attention to? Okay, the fluttering, the sound, the color, the movement. The child is paying attention to all that, and that's how the child is, the sensory information they're taking. Now, a well-meaning adult will come and say, that's a crow. So now what happens is, from the experience of watching, it has now gone to the word. What's that word? Crow, or a bird. And slowly what happens is, instead of paying attention to the experience, the focus has gone more to the word called bird. And sometimes by paying more attention to the words, we can move away from our senses. NLP, we first start off by opening our senses. So I'm going to write a word here. And tell me, what do you get when you see this word? Distinctions. What comes to your mind when you look at the word distinctions? Difference. What is distinct?
Unique.
Unique. Yeah. What is unique? NLP is about paying attention to distinctions. Now, if all of us, we go to, where do you have igloos? Igloos are in Greenland? Yeah.
Alaska.
In Alaska. Let's go to Alaska, okay? Now, when you and I see snow, what do we see?
The color.
White. Cold.
White,
Okay. All right.
I see Christmas.
Christmas, okay. Now, most of us would see snow. But an Eskimo is able to make out 17 different types of snow. 17 different distinctions of snow. So they can look at one kind of snow and say, okay, you can use that snow to eat, to drink, that snow to build an igloo. I don't know what you do with the other 14. You do something with it. I don't know, maybe throw on somebody or whatever, right? But now imagine if in that context, who has more power? You or us or the Eskimo? Because they are able to make more distinctions. Distinctions is the key to power or the key to mastery. Think about what distinctions would a musician, would a master musician be able to do?
Sound.
Yeah, so sounds,
Notes and rhythms.
the rhythm, volume, note, pitch, the bass, okay, they'd be able to hear all that. They'd hear the distinction. Sound is a big word, okay? The elements of sound are pitch, tone, frequency, rhythm. What distinctions would a good architect be able to make, or interior designer?
The
What
angles,
is-
the lighting,
Spaces, one, lighting, angles, colors.
colors.
Okay, so very good with colors. How many of you good with colors? Like how many of you like colors and you're able to distinguish between different colors? You work etiquette, you said, right? Okay. Your profession, I think, would need for your ability to look at fine differences in colors. Am I correct? Yeah. Anybody else, your profession requires that to be able to make distinctions in colors? Okay. Now, my range of colors in my head is like 10. It's Vidgyor, and in that also I don't know the violet and purple. Okay? And it's brown, black, white. Something like that. So I know 10 colors. Monica has a palette of some 5,000 million colors. Okay? 5,080 million colors. But you get the point. So I will look at a color and I'll say, oh, that's brown, or that's red, or something like that. She said, that's mauve. The mauve is not even a color yet. It sounds like one planet. Right? But now between her and me, who's able to make more distinctions with colors? She is. So if you ever are thinking of designing your house, don't call me. Call Monica. Alright? So we will walk into a shop and then she will look at something and she'll say, oh, if this was like this, we can use this over here, and this color doesn't match that. I have no idea what she's talking about. Right? How many of your work involves the importance of colors? Do any of you? What kind?
Marketing. For a lot of the ad campaigns and the marketing
Yes.
gimmicks.
Yeah, you will need to be able to make good distinctions in colors. Your work
I
definitely.
also work with artificial plants. I've recently converted a hobby into a profession. I create artificial flower arrangements on wooden bases, different shapes and sizes. So making an arrangement, putting together different colors and different shades of white, off-white, different shades of pink. So it's
Yeah, and you enjoy that. And what are different shades of pink?
there are many actually. As you said, 5,000 plus.
Yeah. So what are some scary names of a few of them?
For pinks, you would go from baby pink to a deeper pink to magenta to a runny shade to so many more.
Hot pink. I think baby pink I can manage. What color is his shirt? Is it pink?
Dull maroon with white stripes.
Okay. I would just call it pink.
Red and white.
Huh?
Red and white.
Red and white, correct. You also same. Okay. Okay, what color is her?
That's a
Mustard.
No, that's a little dull mango yellow.
Okay. How many of you would have a different name for that? Custard yellow. Mustard. For you it's yellow. Right? Yeah, for you say okay, it's yellow. What would you call it?
I thought it was mustard as well.
And now you know it's not. Dull mango color. Okay, beautiful.
Sri Lankan yellow.
So just so that we pay attention to patterns, I want to say, how do you know if you're able when you're noticing patterns? Okay, so suppose I'm talking to you and I drop the marker once. Is that a pattern? No, I've done it just once. Now, as I'm talking, I drop it again. Is that a pattern?
No.
Well, you're not yet. You're seeing something, right? And then I pick it up and then I'm talking and then I drop it again. Now, is that a pattern?
Yes.
Okay, so you can safely say if you see something 3 times, you hear something 3 times, there's a beginning of a pattern. So very interesting choice of word that Aman used. She used the word dull at least 3 times. Dull mango, dull maroon, dull pink.
No, dull pink I didn't
You
say.
didn't. Okay, the marker fell only twice. So an architect or an interior designer would be able to make distinctions in colors, finer distinctions in colors. What distinctions would a good mechanic be able to make?
Shapes.
Nuts and bolts.
Okay, what
Automobile.
automobile?
Sounds.
Sounds. They'd be able to hear
The
Smell also
vibration.
make
the smell.
oil. Different.
Vibrations also sometimes.
You worked in the engine thing
Yeah,
also.
right.
All right. So what distinctions as a
First, getting into that area, the smell itself is very different.
right? So what would you be able to make out from the smell? In the ship, right? You're talking
Yeah,
about the
on
ship.
ships, yeah.
Okay, on the ship, yeah.
On the
What?
The smell, sound, and then the vibrations.
So what would you be able to make out from the vibration about whether something is okay or not okay, or something smells right, does not smell right?
It's smooth sailing, or some machinery is now
It's malfunctioning. You'd be able to make out just from the vibration.
Yeah.
Okay, super. And for that, you need sense. You need to be able to make distinctions. Now, how many of you coaches here, or in the coaching field, or interested in coaching? Just can I see a show of hands? Okay, Ready Forms, quite a few. Or how many of you like working with people, and that's an area of interest for you? Okay, great, quite a few. So here's the thing. What distinctions would a good coach or a counselor be able to make?
Tone of voice.
Yeah, they'd be able to hear the difference in the tones of voice. They'd be able to hear, they'd be able to spot that. They'd be able to hear the emotion behind the words. Yeah? What about a good salesman? What distinctions would they be able to make?
What is important to the prospect?
They'd be able to read buying signals. When the customer is ready to buy it. Sorry?
The eyes become like kind of
Yeah.
pupils or whatever.
Yeah, they'd be able to read that. How many of us have had a good sales experience? Like someone sold you something and it was a good experience for you. Okay? Now, how many of us have had a bad selling experience? Right? Typically, when it's bad, people have either not paid attention to that you were not interested, or they asked too early, or maybe even too late. Good salespeople are able to pick the information and ask the question appropriately at that point of time, right? So, yes, he's nodding. Yeah, that's his work.
You say buying something is an emotional decision and sales is an emotional process. Is what
Yeah. So typically, and then which is why they impact the how, because we get excited about it. The pizza looks this way, or the product looks this way. Any of you Apple fans here? Like Apple Macintosh fans? Okay. How many of you buy the product just because it's released by Apple? Okay, so it's the apple cult. Okay, so like I said, what Richard Bandler, John Grinder found these people doing is that they use their senses, and these people were able to see minute changes, hear minute shifts, and be able to sense subtle shifts in the clients. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to get out of the head, we want to get into opening our senses. NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Program. What is neuro? Nervous system, senses, the brain. Okay, I like to look at neuro as thinking or thoughts. And it's not just thoughts, it's when we're looking at thoughts, it's what I think and how I think. Okay? Now, what is the difference, would you say, between what I think and how I think? What would you say is the difference? The what of a thought and the how of a thought.
What you think will depend on situation.
And what is how?
Depending on how you are programmed or how you would like to think.
Right. How you like to think. Okay, somebody else? So what I'm saying is all our thoughts have a what and a how.
What is basically the content?
Okay, what is how?
How is
How do I access that content?
okay, so to use NLP, what kind of sensory experience I have about that,
Okay.
what kind of sensory mix I have,
Okay.
then there's a sub-level down submodalities. So all that is the how
Okay.
thought. Or is it
You were going to say something?
For me, so that was a reaction to my thought. The how is how I react to my thought.
Okay, you're talking about the reaction. Okay. And what I'm talking about still at the thought level.
So how does the thought materialize in your head?
Okay. And
But
how
does
is
it
that
come as
different
a-
from a what?
Like does the thought come as a speech? Does it come as an image?
Okay. Yeah.
It's more about asking yourself what exactly is the question, what exactly is the matter in hand, what are
Okay.
you actually thinking about,
Okay.
as opposed to how you want to sort of
So you're breaking it
perceive
down into the process.
the way you perceive it and what exactly are you trying to achieve.
Okay, super. So what is the content? How is a little different. So let's do a process, okay? What's your favorite dish?
Key.
Kheer, biryani, biryani. Which one?
Egg biryani.
Chicken biryani. Okay, now, all of you have a favorite dish? You have it in mind? Okay, now, here's what I request you to do. Think about your favorite dish and picture it, and wherever you see it, place your hand over there. Wherever you picture it, place your hand over there. Wherever you can now see it, as you picture it, place your hand. Keep your hand out over there. Where do you see it? Right. Okay.
It's still in my head. It's
Right.
not. But
And if you were to see it in front of you, if you were to see it outside of your head, where would you put it?
you're floating.
There. Okay,
like
there.
here.
Like over there. It's over there. Okay. Wherever your hand is, just keep your hand there, and your hand can be there. Yeah. Now, notice your experience when you're watching it wherever it is. Now, watch me. Just open your eyes and just watch me. Some of you are too engaged with your food. Wait. Watch me. Now, let's just try this. Look at the food. Now bring it closer. And notice if something happens.
Mouth is water. Yeah.
No, I think it becomes
You're
more
getting
real.
yeah?
It becomes more real.
So how many of you your senses are getting engaged? Okay, how many of your mouth is watering a bit? What's happening?
My which favorite?
You're in, okay, good. And I'm going to say B. Well, you preferred it here.
Yeah, it was like,
Okay, good.
like
Keep it.
real.
Keep it there. All right. Okay, keep it there. Very interesting. Yeah, just bring it to in front. How many of you, when you brought it closer, your mouth started watering? Okay. What dish did you take?
Biryani.
Biryani. What dish?
Mine is a Sri Lankan dessert called chocolate biscuit.
Chocolate biscuit pudding. Oh, what was yours? Hazelnut ice cream. Okay. How many of you could get the smell? Okay. Now, by the what is the same when it is here, when it is here, when it is here, when it is here. The what is the same. That's not changed. But now, how we're seeing it, whether here or here, we call this the how. Okay. Now, let's do one thing. This dish over here. Now, move it about 20 feet ahead of you, or 10 or 20 feet ahead of you. Picture it. Watch it go. Yeah. It's interesting you moved it that way, Anthony. It's interesting that you moved it that way, okay? Yeah. So move it about 10, 20 feet and notice your response. Is the experience the same or is it different?
Sad.
It's sad. Okay. Do you okay, how many of you the intensity goes down? Okay? For how many of you the urge to have it is stronger? Just curious. Okay, that's interesting. For you also? It becomes less? Okay. If you were to keep this dish in your mind, where would you like to keep it? Would you like to keep it here, here, here? Where would you like to keep it? Yeah, keep it back there. Keep it back there.
And I
Now,
felt like the moment I put it like
it's gone.
ahead, it became more real.
Ah.
Like here, it was like my hand is weightless. Like there's no weight on my hand.
And
Here, I can still feel the dish. Here, I feel the dish. Here, I don't.
where do you like it? You know, keep it there.
I have no
And
idea.
this is what I love about NLP. It is subjective.
How you eat it from
Oh,
It
see,
just needs to be with
can you smell it when it's there? Okay, where do you have to keep it, or what do you need to do so that you can get the smell?
To get the dish actually
Okay, now this seems like a silly little exercise, but this has a huge impact because the how impacts our nervous system. It's not just the content. Okay, the how impacts our nervous system. When somebody has a phobia, it's how many of you okay, he spoke about maybe he has a phobia, I don't know. But typically a phobia, a lot of people know what not to do. I used to be scared of spiders at one point of time. Okay, I grew up in Abu Dhabi, and you don't get spiders in Abu Dhabi. And I was terrified of tarantulas. And where do you find tarantulas? You definitely don't find it in Abu Dhabi. You definitely no. You find it, I think, in the Amazon. You find it in South America. Do you find it in North America? In Australia also? Sorry?
What is that?
Tarantulas are poisonous spiders. Big spiders. Sorry? Have you watched the movie Arachnophobia? Any of you watched the movies? It's on. So you watched it? Were you part of the?
It's bad.
Okay, like
Leaves you with a horrific memory.
right. Okay, that's what happened with you.
Anything with hair you see after that, you'll be like, oh.
Anything with hair, you'd be seeing a spider over there.
Like even people with hair?
Could be. It's interesting that he's saying that. And if you're scared of cockroaches, okay, right? When you think of a cockroach, where do you see it?
I see it.
Yeah,
I don't want to see
I know you don't want to, but wait. So when you think of it,
Right.
where do you picture a cockroach?
Near my foot.
Near your foot. Okay, where is it?
It's all over.
Where?
It's like zipping around.
It's
along the walls.
it's a flying cockroach.
No, it's not
Ah,
flying. It was like running.
Ah, correct, no? What about you?
In the ground.
Okay, so you're not scared of cockroaches? Are you scared of cockroaches? Yeah? Okay, alright. How far is it away from you? Like somewhere, oh, it's close to you. Okay, so it's close to you, it's not too far away. Okay, great. Now, how many of you are not scared of cockroaches? Okay, so when you think of a cockroach, where do you see it?
I don't mind.
So you say, watch his hands. You know,
Either on the wall or
it can be here or
Kitchen or any.
kitchen. No, now when you picture it, where do you see it?
Still like
It's already dead.
in
Kitchen.
In the kitchen also.
So here's what I'm getting at. I'm getting at the how. A friend of mine, she said, she was petrified of cockroaches. So I asked, how big is a cockroach? She said, they're big. Now look at this. This is how, so I asked her, when you think of cockroach, where do you, she said, it's right in front of my face. And I told her, if we were ever in a room and this cockroach was there, I would run away and leave you with that cockroach. So here's the thing. How big is a cockroach for you in your head? Okay, right? So it's not the what, it's more the how that impacts the nervous system. If you look at pizza advertisements, food advertisements, are they influencing the what of our thought or the how? Yes.
So I have a question. I have a phobia of water.
Mhm.
I can't swim. I have tried many times and failed. But how does that relate to this? Because these are objects. With
When
a
you
size.
think of water, like if I ask you to think about swimming,
Yes. I mean, I've tried.
Okay, when you think about swimming now, what's the first thing that happens?
That
Okay,
Yeah.
you okay.
Yeah.
What did you picture just now?
me drowning.
Right. Okay. Good. Great memory to have. Right. When you thought of it, have you had an experience of drowning?
When I was very young.
So, did you recall that experience?
That's my only experience.
Right. Right now, did you have that memory come up? Okay. Now, when you thought of this memory, did you watch it like a movie,
No.
or
I was
you were experiencing? Now, she's experiencing it. She's there. Okay. So she thinks about swimming. Now, imagine and you've tried hard, no, to. Okay. Have you gone up to the swimming pool?
No, I've gone in
Inside.
and I will hold on to the wall, but I will not let go of the wall.
Right. Okay. Guess what? There's a memory playing when she's in water. Okay. And how old were you when this happened?
I was being 3.
Look at that. Okay. So the how tends to be the same. Like it's a real. It's like when you thought of it. Yeah. It's there. Right. So
Just one thing. So I will just add to the.
just give me. So have I answered your question?
No.
What's your
because
question?
My question was now water is water, right? There's no size to it.
But there's a
But
there's a
what is
past
the
experience to it.
So is that what you mean by how?
Yeah.
But
So how you recall that memory
okay.
is getting you into that feeling.
That state.
Yeah, that state.
So there has to be a past associated with it.
Not necessary.
So,
Not necessary. I'll just come to you. Not necessary. And we'll discover this with the next 2-3 days of how our brain works. And we don't necessarily have to have our own personal experience and how our brain can react to if we don't have a personal experience of something.
Can I just
I developed the fear of spiders reading about it. Reading about how big they were. And it was in some book I read about how a man opened the door and the spider the size of a room was there. Now I read that.
Just pass that fear on.
Then of all things, I mean months later I saw Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
How many of you watched Lord of the Rings?
there's no spider.
There's no spider in there.
What do you say?
Harry Potter has big spiders.
Harry Potter's there. In Lord of the Rings, there's that spider which there's that maybe the big was it first or second part? It's there. Harry Potter also has. Okay, I'll show you the scene anyway. So the point is, so that memory, and then you have an experience. So what's happening is how you recall that memory is a certain way. Right? And that could be having that. If you're having an emotion, there's some process going on. Smoothie, and I'll come to you.
So just while you were telling us about cockroach,
Mm.
I was thinking about snakes.
Okay.
So-
How many of you here love snakes? You love snakes?
I have to, it's in my name.
So you like snakes? Yeah, you really love snakes. You also you like snakes? You also like how many of you petrify the snakes? Oh wow. Okay, good. We can take this. Yeah.
So for me, I don't know if I do this consciously or not, but I have had this feeling that when I sleep next to the window and if the window is open, I have that. And I always see it right in front of my face. That's it. Yeah. And
Strange edge kissing. Sorry.
so what I do sometimes is that when I'm taking a session or something like that, and I have to talk to people about reaction and response, just to get over my fear, I try to see are other people also reacting the same way that I do. So what if I open the door and an anaconda walks in? And what will you do? Everybody's scared and I'm like, yeah, me too. So I do this and try to think maybe I'll get over it, but it doesn't happen.
Would you like to get rid of this?
I would.
Would you like to take this as part of the program and see if your fear either vanishes or reduces?
I would.
You could take that. Would you like to be free from that memory? Yeah? No, would you like to? We
Yes.
can, Okay, so we can.
And it, like maybe for her to do it. For me, it's
For you also.
I love swimming. I want to swim, but then the same kind of an experience.
You have an experience. Okay.
Really, when I was 9 years old.
You had a similar kind of experience? Okay.
So are you talking about negative?
No. No, we have associations, positive associations, and not so useful associations. Both are there. Okay, so if you think about this, let's look at real life advertisements. Are they? Do you think they're trying to influence the what or the how? It's the how. Go to a restaurant, and you'll see. When you look at the menu, years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago versus now, what's significantly different in the prices? Okay, thank you. And now we have pictures. We have pictures. How many of you? The description and pictures. Now, how many of you go to a fast food restaurant and the burger there looks huge? The pizza looks huge. When it comes to your plate, it's gone on a diet. Right? So the burger's there and then it comes like this. And then what happened to this fellow? Right? So, and what's happening is, when we see something really big, bright, what colors, are they colorful or not so colorful? Are they bright or dull? When they show pizza advertisements, how do they show the pizza?
Very
Close.
It's close, it's big. What colors stand out? Red, green,
And the
sorry?
cheese color.
Cheese. The cheese also. What did you say, John? The olive. Oh yeah. Okay.
They show
And how do they show the cheese over there when you pull it out? It's like cheese. It comes out. It's cheese. Then by the time it comes to your plate, it's cheese. Now, why is this important? Okay, because it's the how. Now, each one of us have slightly different hows that we respond to. Some of us we respond more to when the images are big. Some of us respond more to when the images are close to us. Some of us, our nervous system gets activated when it's colorful. And what I invite you to do is to pay attention to that. Because if you look at goals, how many of us have certain goals that you're just completely motivated at? You don't have to motivate yourself. It's just automatically you move. How many of us have goals for that? How many of us also have goals where you want to, but it's just not happening? Okay? A lot of it is got to do with the how we think of it. Not only the how, there are other factors, but a lot of it has got to do with the how. Okay? So, let's move to language. L refers to language, linguistic. So, give me another word for this. Talk. The words that we use. Okay, again, there's the what and the how here. But a simple thing, I'll say. Don't think of a pink elephant. Okay, don't think of it. What are you thinking of? Don't think of a pink elephant marrying a green gorilla. Don't think of it. Now, here's the thing. Our nervous system does not respond to the word don't. You say, don't think of Tom running after Jerry. You're mostly going to get a picture of Tom running off whatever that, right? So, words have a very, very powerful impact on us. And how we can use words is first to become aware of the kind of language that we're using, you and I. And each of us are using certain language, certain words that trigger us to move forward. We are unconsciously also using words that pull us back. Okay? For example, I remember a friend of mine had come to the office and said, I don't want to get angry. Now, just think about it. Is she talking about what she wants or doesn't want? Doesn't want. I said, okay, what do you want? So she said, don't want to get angry. I said, okay, what do you want? I don't want to get angry. What do you want? I don't want to get angry. Now, she's talking about what she doesn't want and she was feeling that. I said, I know, but what do you want? I don't want to get angry. Right? Now, if you really want to create an outcome and give a direction to your brain, what would you say? What could you say? I want to be calm, or I want to be relaxed in this so-and-so situation. Okay. I'll say a sentence, just repeat it. Say, I can do it, it is difficult. You say? I can do it, it is difficult. And now say, it is difficult, I can do it. It is difficult, I can do it. Okay. Is your experience of both sentences the same or different? For how many of you it's the same? And it can be the same. For how many of you it's different? Okay. Which one did you prefer?
Second.
How many of you prefer the second one? Okay. How many of you prefer the first one? Okay. So how do you know you prefer the first one? For you also, Aman, the first one?
No, I felt the first one wasn't really. I didn't want to say that it is difficult. I wanted to say it is easy
Okay. Right. So
because I started with it. I can
it's
do
difficult.
it.
Okay.
It is easy.
Huh.
Difficult. I have to force myself.
Okay,
to say.
good. You found it difficult to use the word difficult. Right, super. Which one did you respond?
I like the first one.
I can do it, it is difficult. Now, let's call can positive, let's call difficult negative. Now, most of you seem to prefer the second one. Am I correct? Okay. And Nirmala, for you, you prefer the
Yeah, the first one.
first one. Okay. Now, here's the thing. So let's say if this is a pattern, and we don't know if it's a pattern, it could be, those of you who like this one, you probably like ending with a certain positivity. Okay? For in your case, you probably like, maybe you like starting with the positivity and then it sustains. Now, we got to test this and see what you respond to. Okay? So if you were able to, let's say those of you working with teams, if you were able to identify, let's say you're on my team and I identify you're someone who, let's say you respond better to the first one. Then, and let's say my way of thinking is this way. Yeah. Now mostly I would communicate in my way, which is end with the confidence, right? End with the positive. But if I recognize Aman responds better to this, then what I can do is I can tweak my communication, my language, I start with the positivity and end with the difficulty. And she likes starting with something positive. So maybe one of the things we could do is recognize people at home and with friends and teams, see what do they seem to respond to. Okay. Let's try this. Can all of you say 10 lakhs?
10 lakhs.
Now, as a feeling, how much is 10 lakhs? Like this. Just 10 lakhs. Okay? Okay? 10 lakhs. Okay. And now say, sorry? Yeah, that's it. 10 lakhs. And now say only 10 lakhs. Only 10 lakhs. For how many of you it became smaller? Right? It shrank for you? It became small for you? 2,000. Oh, check. That's me too. Okay. For you, it's the same. It's the same. And that's why, did you look at the note and hold the notes?
I was holding like the
Holding, yeah. Which is why it's the feeling of 10 lakhs. Was it the same for you? 10 lakhs? Only 10 lakhs was the same for you. For how many of you had a difference? Okay, what happened? It shrunk. Now, if it did work for you, then just look at this. One word, and there's a different experience. Okay, in your case, this may not have been useful. Like 10 lakhs, only 10 lakhs was the same. Right? It didn't need enough. Okay. Can you play around with a few words, maybe during lunch, and just to see what are some words prior to the 10 lakhs that you would respond to, right? Like you'll see this. This is a trick. A lot of the credit card companies or banks, or when they want to sell, only blah blah blah, only 10 lakhs, sir. Your membership is only this, right? So they don't say it's this, right? They say only this. Sorry.
The tone of the
So this is only. It will only cost you your life. Only. Okay. And our words and how we say it have a huge impact on our thinking and how we think in what we think. Now let's go to programming. Can you give me a different word for programming?
Practice.
Sorry? Practice.
Conditioning.
Conditioning. I like the word. Sorry?
pattern.
Pattern. I like pattern. Conditioning. Sequencing. So I like to use the word either behavior, habit. I like conditioning, pattern. Okay. Now let's do something quick. Can all of you clasp your hands? Clasp your hands. Clasp your hands. Okay. All of you clasp your hands. Okay. Now, my left thumb is on top of my right thumb. How many of you got your left thumb on top of your right thumb? Please raise your hands. Okay, we are the good people, right? How many of you got your right on top of your left? Okay. Oh, you too. Hey, too. Okay. Unclasp. Okay. Clasp. Same or different?
Same.
Okay. All right. Clasp. Unclasp. Clasp. Same or different?
Same.
Okay. For you, it's different. Okay. Okay. Unclasp. Clasp? Same or different? Okay, now here's the thing. So most of us are getting it the same. Okay, now let's watch me. Okay, let's try one simple thing. If your left was on top of your right, what you do is interlock them differently. Just watch me. Don't just switch the thumb. Interlock all fingers differently. Right? If you're like this, then interlock all fingers. Adjust them so that it shifts. And notice what happened. What happened? When you do this, uncomfortable. What happened, Charlotte? What did it feel like? Huh? You couldn't do it. Okay. It took you time. Okay, very good. Go back to the normal. Okay, and go do it even if you just did this, like what I'm doing. Yeah. Okay. How many of you the fingers are like the fingers are confused? Okay, good. It doesn't feel natural.
It feels like cognitive overload.
It feels like cognitive overload. Okay, now let's try it.
It's
It's a good hypnotic term, okay? Right, now let's do this. Clasp it differently, unclasp. Different, new, unclasp. New, unclasp. New, unclasp. New, unclasp. New, unclasp. You're allowed to smile when you do this, okay? Okay, so I'll give you a little trick. If you go far, then when you come, the fingers don't know where they are. Right? So if you just keep it a bit close by, it becomes easier. Okay? So clasp, new lead. Clasp, new. Okay, new way. I'm advertising. New way. Clasp it way. Only not the old way. Only the new way. Clasp it faster. So clasp it. And Charlotte, you clasp it and 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 okay. Now feel it. And just check. Is there any difference? Does it feel the same? Does it feel as uncomfortable? Does it feel more comfortable? Or okay, for how many of you it feels more comfortable? Okay. Charlotte, what does it feel like? As uncomfortable as before. Like okay, good.
For me, it's more familiar now.
Yes.
It's uncomfortable on the fingers.
Okay, good, very good. And familiarity is what when you look at comfort. When are we comfortable with something? When we tend to be familiar with something, right? Sorry?
The other side is feeling uncomfortable.
Now the other side is feeling uncomfortable. Okay. This is what happens. Firstly, if you really think about it, should this actually be a problem? No. Okay. It shouldn't, right? But here's what happens. Firstly, why do we do it? Why was the left thumb on top of the right thumb? Why was that? Why do we call it natural? Because we were not born with it, we learned it. So how do we learn anything? So the first time when, suppose this is the brain, and this is like how the pathways get created. The first time you and I do anything, it creates a neural pathway, like a thin line, like a kacha road. Okay? We do it again, then after the kacha road, it now begins to become a pakka road. You know what a pakka road is, right? Then from a pakka road, it turns into a highway. Then from a highway, it turns into a expressway. And this becomes a neural pathway, and this is what we call a automatic habit. All our behaviors that we've learned, like even reading the time, tying the shoelace, knotting a tie, putting on our clothes, the way that we eat, all these things are habits that we have developed. We were not born with it, right? Now, here's the important thing. One of the intentions of this program is to recognize that in many ways our habits have made us. Okay? Do we also have not so useful habits? Yes. And those not so useful habits limit us. Okay? Now, what we want to do is this. Just imagine this. There's a brain A and there's a brain B. Okay? Now, don't just go by the visual. Just look at the what I'm trying to communicate. Imagine brain A has so many connections or neural pathways. Brain B, okay, has pathways like this. Which one would you say is a more efficient brain? Which one, A or B?
B.
Okay, how many say A? Okay, and why do you say A?
We're very clear with what we want.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Don't just look at it from a. If you're looking at it visually, this looks clear, this looks like messy. But if you look at our brain, B has more connections, more connections. One of the things we say in NLP is if you have only one way, we get stuck. If you have two ways, we're in a dilemma. And if you have three or more ways, we have choice, freedom, flexibility. And one of the aims of this program and of NLP is to develop choice, freedom, flexibility. So if you go back to what I had spoken in the earlier session about awareness, about reaction. Reaction generally tends to be one way. It's just automatic. And when we can develop choice, freedom, flexibility, when we can choose, then we can create new pathways. I just want to show you a metaphor as to how just to depict the importance of this. So imagine this is your house and this is a supermarket, and this has been a road that since you're small you've been taking the same road, okay, to go from the house to the supermarket. Now what's happened is over the years, other roads have developed, but we're creatures of habit. So which road do we take? How many of us take the same road again and again and again? We're creatures. It's not good, it's not bad. We tend to do it. But it's become habitual. We're not thinking. How many of you have ever driven from one place to another place and then wonder how the hell did I get here? Right? There's no thinking involved. Now, on normal days it's fine. When does this become a problem? When there's a traffic jam.
And Google is off.
Yeah, now we know this road, okay? So when there's a traffic jam and you're stuck here, don't know what to do, right? And we feel frustrated, we don't know what to do. And then you take a long time to get here. And then one day you discover, hey, there's this road. Hey, we've got this road. Oh, now I have so many ways. So if you come here and stuck, oh, there's this road and you can get over here.
And it's a different sense of achievement when you find the shorter route.
And that's what we want to do with our own brain to make it more efficient. We want to decondition our brain a bit and recondition our brain to new connections. How do we do that? Okay, this. Okay. Now, how many of you felt uncomfortable when you were doing this? When you first did it? Okay. So that process of discomfort, if we can allow ourselves to go through it, then the breakthrough will happen on the other side. Simple thing. Can all of you fold your arms? Okay? Right. So now my left hand goes down, right hand comes up. How about you?
Right.
Okay. How many of your left hand goes down and right hand comes up? Okay. So okay, how many of you it's the other way around? How many of you it's like this? Okay. Now simple thing. Change. Go back. Okay. Change. Isn't it? Isn't it? Okay. Now what's happening, Charlotte? Okay, yeah, right. And then do it this way. Right? Change. Yeah, and this is what we request you to do. And this is a little bit of the wax on, wax off. To be able to do things differently. Okay. So one key, and I'm going to suggest through this week, and there are people even after the course they continue to do this, to take on doing something new and different every day. So it starts stimulating our brain. By doing that, by doing these silly things, we also begin to start getting comfortable with the process of change. Is that making sense? Okay? Okay, let's do one thing. Can all of you do this? Okay? With your right hand this, and with your left hand you this. Okay. Yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah, so one's going forward, okay, and the one's going forward and the other one's going do it. So I'm doing Rajesh Khanna. Okay, so you could do it earlier? You just got it?
I think I was doing the reverse.
Yeah, okay.
But
yeah, you're getting it, okay.
One goes forward, other goes
yeah, one's like this. Yeah, one's like this, forward roll, and the other one is like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good. And just be aware of what's happening inside you. Some of you saying, you can't do this, it's not possible. Just notice that, okay? No right, no wrong, just be aware of that. The point of this is this. All of us have certain patterns, automatic patterns, conditioned patterns. How many first put on trousers and then our shirt? Okay. How many first have a pattern of putting on shirt first and then trousers? Okay. How many first button up down? How many first button down up? Okay. Now here's the thing. The whole how we're starting this off is to start stimulating the brain by doing something different. So what we can do is this. If let's say you were going to do something different. By the way, when I'm saying something different, please don't. This is not the time for those pledges. I will never smoke again, ever again. Or from tomorrow, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. every day. How many of you are left-handers here? Any of you left-handers? No. Okay, everyone's a right-hander. So, do all of you brush your teeth with your right hand? Okay, so try it with your left hand tomorrow. What else could we do? If you're okay, so normally how do you comb your hair? With your right hand. Use your left hand. I don't stand. I can't do that exercise. That part.
Carrying a bag on the left shoulder.
Yeah, if you're used to carrying it here, use it over here. How many of you are used to sleeping on one side of the bed? Right? Maybe try the other side. Some of you may not get very good sleep tonight, but that's okay, right? But here's the point. We're training our mind and our body to get comfortable with change. And I realized this when I saw something about my father and my father-in-law. I remember sitting on a chair, and I got up and I told my dad, it's a very uncomfortable chair. Just listen to my words. Huh? That chair is not comfortable. My dad sat on the chair. My father-in-law sat on the chair. Later asked him, how is this it's uncomfortable. He said, no, I'm very comfortable. And it really got me thinking, how is it that both of them are comfortable and I'm uncomfortable? And what I realized is the connections I have, I was uncomfortable with the change. I'm used to chairs being a certain way, and it was a different kind of chair. They adjusted themselves to it, and I did not. I was stuck, and they had more flexibility in their experience. So, what are some things you can do between today and tomorrow? Some small thing different. What could you do?
Brush with left.
Okay, maybe brush with your left hand.
Drive on the wrong side.
Please ensure that. Two things I forgot. Make sure your well-being is maintained, and please be socially appropriate. Okay.
One thing I actually notice is, like, for example, I am used to sleeping on the right side of the bed. Like, for the past 7 years, at least, I've been sleeping on the right side of the bed. Every time I change a house also, I somehow find myself sleeping on the right side.
Right.
A couple of times when I tried changing it was difficult for the first few days, and I always, even till this very moment, I thought it probably is an OCD. That, I can't do it. It's just that's how it is.
It's we've created that connection, and we're comfortable with that, right? And what we want to do is create new connections. There was your friend Prasanna. So there was one participant when he's a right-hander. So we were talking about this. I said, what could you do different? He had his pen in his right hand. He just took the pen on his left hand, and the entire program he wrote notes with his left hand. I'm not suggesting that you do that, but one of the things you can do is write with your left hand. You'll find a lot of people who are called geniuses are ambidextrous. They use both the left and the right. Now, we're going to go for lunch. Now, is there a pattern that we've been conditioned on how to eat?
The fork in the left with the knife.
Okay,
in the
yeah,
right.
okay, that is.
Spoon in the right.
And the
Fork in the left.
fork in the left.
The fork is always
And what's the pattern? So suppose there's a buffet. What's the first thing? What is that?
Eating the salads.
Eating with your hand. First is the soup.
The soup, yeah.
The way that they normally arrange it is first the soup, then you have the salads, and then the appetizers. Then what? Then there is the dinner also. What's first?
The main
Rotis,
dishes.
the rotis, that's right. Then the rice, and then curd rice. Yeah. And then you end with dessert. So I'll tell you how important. When I became aware of this, Have any of you been to this place called what's that on that Afghan place?
Samarkand.
Samarkand. Any of you been there? Samarkand. Okay. So we used to go with our team over there, and the first thing you used to you have those breadsticks. Enjoy those breadsticks. The first thing we'll get some kebabs, eat kebabs. Okay. Now, by the time we've had the kebabs, we're full. But the conditioned brain is so powerful. Next is we're going to have rotis with what? No, starters, the kebabs and starters, then the rotis and the rice and all that, and end with the sweet. It's like that. And then you walk out saying, I'm never going to eat like this. And next day, same thing happens. And then we realize, hey, listen, I just realized is actually, if I listen to my body is after the kebabs, we're done. So now what we started doing, we started going there, have the kebabs, ask for the bill. And the guys are perplexed. Don't you want to have main course? Main course, oh yeah. We're full. Now, when we go for lunch now, how many of you vegetarians here? Okay, how many of you non-vegetarians here? Okay, those of you non-vegetarians here, try out some vegetarian food. Also, okay, you can, okay. Those of you vegetarians, try out some other vegetarian food. Now, when you go for lunch now, please try out something different, something that you normally don't. If you're used to eating with the right hand, use your left hand. How many of you are comfortable with using chopsticks? Okay, so those of you not, you can ask them for chopsticks and then maybe try eating. You can start with the dessert.
It's the best.
Okay, right? You can start with the dessert. You can end with the soup. I'm inviting you to break the pattern of conditioning and try something different.